Hello everybody and welcome back to Mining Modern. I'm Corbin Hosler and this is Mono Blue Tron. Kind of a throwback, which I think is interesting in today's Modern, but I've seen a couple people doing well with this. I found this list in a deck list dump. This looks like an old school Blue Tron list and I'm here for it. I want to see how it interacts in this new Modern meta we've got. So I say, it's an old school list. Blue Tron is an archetype that goes back to the beginning of Modern, but it really got a big boost with the Karn the Great creator here. So let's walk through the deck very briefly. Essentially, you know what we're up to. We're playing Tron, and there's very few ways to get me to play Tron. I tend to be on the kill Tron as fast as possible plan most of the time, but in this case, we're going to give it a shot. So with Tron, with the Urza's Mine, Tower, and Power Plant, you can get these to add additional mana. As you can see, the Mine will add 2 if you control the Power Plant and the Tower. The Power Plant will add 2, and the Tower will add 3. So 1 + 1 + 1 = 7, as they say. Then we've got some blue lands here. Tolaria West can transmute for your Tron pieces. That's pretty nice. Gemstone Caverns can help you get ahead on mana. Blast Zone is good utility. And of course, Academy of Ruins is pretty key in this deck. So what are we going to do with all that mana? It's pretty interesting that Blue Tron is a deck, but it works, sort of. So Expedition Map will help us find our Tron pieces. A couple Talisman here to ramp. But essentially what you want to do is play a control game early on and then leverage that mana into big finishers. Obviously, this deck's going to be big on Ugin the Spirit Dragon wiping things. Wurmcoil Engine to come over the top of creature decks. Karn is going to be your Wink Edition a lot of the time, fetching things out of your sideboard. We'll get to that. Remand is a pretty good turn 2 play, buys time for you. Condescend is another. You get a counter stuff, works very well with all that mana, and you get a scry. And then Repeal is sort of the similar thing. You can bounce problematic permanents and draw. So essentially, that's the deck, right? We have Tron, lots of mana, and then blue cards to use it. Now, what we also have as far as the artifact goes is Chalice of the Void. We know how good this is in the format, drop it on 1. And of course, Walking Ballista is a pretty good mana sink and a good way to win a lot of games. And frankly, that's it. It's Mono Blue Tron. We're going to counter stuff, we're going to bounce stuff, we're going to make a lot of mana, and we're going to play some big things. So what do you get in the sideboard? I mentioned Karn the Great Creator here. You can -2 this thing to reveal an artifact you control from outside the game and put it into your hand. So we have kind of a toolbox over here, right? We've got another Ballista. We've got Engineered Explosives to wipe the board when you need to. We've got Sundering Titan to blow up lands. We've got Wurmcoil to get control of the board. We got Mindslaver to take control of an opponent in their turn. And I'll note that one of the ways to win is locking an opponent with a Mindslaver lock via Academy Ruins, which is something that doesn't come up often, but when you have a lot of mana, you can do it. Dismember where you need removal, but then back to the wish board here. Ensnaring Bridge, Trinisphere for your combo opponents. Liquimetal Coating allows you to turn other stuff into an artifact, which then won't be able to activate thanks to Karn's static ability. And Relic of Progenitus for your graveyard hate. Like I said, it's a little bit of a throwback list here, but I am excited for it. So that's what we're looking at. Mono Blue Tron here on Mining Modern, and let's get right to the games. This looks good enough to me. I do wish we had been on the play, but even on the draw here, I mean, look, we've got the map on turn 1, as does our opponent, the Tron Mirror here. We'll see how that goes. We'll see how this goes in the Tron Mirror, but you know what? We can also play this Tron game. Let's play an expedition map of our own. Now, if our opponent's playing a more straightforward version of Tron, they're going to get there before we do, right? If they have a second Urza's land like that, the Urza's Tower, they can now crack their map to get whatever they want. So we're going to actually change it up by playing our island here. We have Remand open. We have Condescend open. And we can crack our own map should we, not actually need to counter anything our opponent's doing. So this is one of the benefits of Blue Tron. Here we are in this Tron Mirror. Our opponent has turn 3 Tron. But we're okay, because as they come down trying to slam this turn 3 Karn, we get to do this very clean Remand or even Condescend if we want. And I'm actually going to go with the Condescend here. Counter it unless our opponent pays 1, which they cannot do. And look at that. A mine and a tower right on top. Well, that's Tron, everybody. I guess I may as well keep them. We have the Remand to get them into our hand. So we've got some time here. I mean, we play out the power plant. pass the turn. If our opponent has a threat, we remand it. And if they don't, we get to fire off a Thirst for Knowledge. So lots of good options available to us here, even though our opponent has access to now 9 mana. So it is another Karn Liberated. We'll have to remand that thing. And just like that, we have Tron of our own. And our opponent's going to have to find, probably find some threats, right? I mean, we have access to a ton of mana right now, although not all of it is blue. And it's kind of unfortunate, right? Because we need this remand. So what I'm actually going to do here, I think, I'm just thinking this one through, because we only have the 1 blue mana. I kind of want to go get an island with my expedition map, which is bizarre, but possibly the right thing to do. I'm trying to figure out if I can... if I use the power plant and the mine here to make 4 mana, I can use that on a Ballista, and then I have access to 4 mana with the tower and this to remand plus crack the map. So I think that's actually what we're going to do here. This is an interesting deck. I have to say, you know, like I said, I usually am the person who wants to get the Tron player. And I guess that works out since we're playing against Tron. But I like that our Tron deck offers a different gameplay, a different way to use the mana that isn't just slamming Karn Liberated on turn 7. Because this deck is not about turbo completing Tron. It's about controlling the board. And, you know, the more Tron lands our opponent has, we might come up a little short here, right? We've still got some distance to go, but we'll allow the Sylvan Scrying to resolve. That's no big deal, I guess. I mean, I'm certainly not going to remand it and get Karned, so they're going to go get the Sanctum of Ugin, so they can now go get another threat when we remand this Karn Liberated that comes down. So this game's got a long way to go, frankly, and I don't know what I want to get with my expedition map, actually. I guess we'll see what happens while we draw off the remand, but we really do just need blue mana, don't we? It's a Wurmcoil. Okay, well, I could let the Wurmcoil resolve and run off a Thirst for Knowledge here. Trying to think of what kind of answers we have to that Wurmcoil Engine. I kind of think this is okay. I don't want that Karn Liberated to resolve. I don't want to burn my remand on it. And I do want to cast a Thirst for Knowledge, so that's what we're going to do. Alright, so I'm going to discard an artifact here because we can... I mean, Chalice of the Void on 1 actually would have been perfectly fine here, but look, we got our blue mana at least. And we'll go from there. Okay. Alright, so... I guess I'm just going to main phase another Thirst for Knowledge. Alright, we'll discard the artifact here. This is a weird game, right? But we get a pass back. Look, the Wurmcoil Engine is a long-term problem. There's no way around it. But it is a long-term problem. Whereas the Karn would have been a now problem. And I would much rather be able to counter that thing. Or at least delay it. And I do think we have the mana to pop the map here. I haven't figured out how we're going to beat the Wurmcoil Engine quite yet, but we're working on it. We do have access to a Cyclonic Rift in our deck, plus Repeal. If we make enough mana, Repeal will be pretty good, but oh my opponent went and got Emrakul the Promised End. That one's pretty good against us, I have to say. I really don't know what our plan is here. I've got 4 mana. I could put a counter on the Ballista if I want. My opponent's just going to scry. I have to say, I feel like we're behind here. The lack of... I wish we had some ceremonious rejections in our sideboard, maybe. Because this is kind of problematic, is it not? I have 4 mana right now. I think I'm just going to put it into the Ballista, because I just don't know what I'm getting with the map. Right? We've already got... I could get the Blast Zone. That doesn't seem particularly good. So, yeah, I guess I'll just put a counter on this. And it's not like putting a counter on this is much better, but at least it's mana efficient. And we'll take our beats. We want to draw a Karn of our own. I think that's pretty much the answer here. Get a Mindslaver or something crazy like that, which is, I mean, it's problematic because we're the ones who are about to get Mindslavered. So, yeah. I could cast an Ugin. I could do that. Yeah, that Emrakul is going to be so difficult. The thing is, though, if I plus Ugin, if I play and plus Ugin here, and then my opponent Emrakul's us, we don't actually lose the Ugin to the Wurmcoil hit. Not that I have any idea how we get back into it or how we would beat an Emrakul or anything like that, but I'm going to start by casting the Thirst for Knowledge. And there you go. That's a Condescend. I believe we can counter the Emrakul, even if we can't stop the effect. Okay. Well, the game continues to be very odd, I'll say. But I guess this gives us at least an out to the Emrakul, right? Condescend's got to be one of the best cards in this deck. Gosh, we take the beats. I mean, we're just in danger of dying to the Wurmcoil as it stands, but the Repeal will come in handy later. And depending on what our opponent chooses to do here, look, I didn't even do the math. They have, what, 9 mana? I'm sure they can cast an Emrakul, but we can Repeal the Wurmcoil. We have plenty of mana at our disposal right now. Not that I think... Ooh, that's beatable. That just might be beatable. Although I say that. I mean, I Condescend that. And that's still terrible for us, right? Then again, if they were to just plus it, it goes to 10. Can I actually... 6, 8? I actually put 2 counters into my Ballista, and I could try to get it with the Walking Ballista. And keep open the Condescend for the Emrakul, because I don't know how we're going to beat Emrakul otherwise. It seems bad all around. I mean, we're letting a Karn resolve, but I just feel like we're behind here. We have to kind of know and keep in mind what we can and what we cannot beat. And I think I can beat this play. I guess we'll lose the power plant. Okay, well, here we are in the end step. That's 8 mana. Let's put 2 counters on this thing. I mean, this is a better spot than, honestly, I thought we'd be in. And look at that. That's a good one as well. I think, anyway. This is just not very good here, is it? I feel like I'm going to be going down to 2 here, but... Alright, so let's go ahead and actually put another counter on this thing so I can keep it around. Well, I want to make sure that would leave me with 6, 9 mana. Surely that's enough to Condescend. I could also play this and turn my Expedition map into a 1/1. If I don't do this, then I have 6, 10, 13 mana. 7 for the Repeal, leaving me X equals 5 on the Condescend. I mean, that might be good enough. I could even theoretically let this card plus again. After, you know, hitting it for 5. And I think the play is to put counters on the Ballista, take out the Karn, and go from there. This is going to be a difficult game, that's for sure. But I think we're doing what we can here. All right, Karn down. We did it. I guess. I could also put, I mean, what, a Chalice of the Void or a Talisman back on top of my deck with the Academy Ruins here. Probably not exactly where we want to be, but hey, you know what? I don't know how we're supposed to win. It involves getting a Mindslaver, I guess. This seems terrible for me, right? Then again, I could just bounce it with the Repeal. I don't really want them to tutor. And this might be the one that has to get Condescended. And it's got to be Condescend X equals 6. Which I can do. We get a scry out of this too, so. I don't know that we're going to find a way to come back and win this game. It involves more Condescends, I think, but it definitely does not involve these cards. I'll say that. Although, you know, hey, I actually get to pop my Expedition map, so maybe I should have done that before I scried, but honestly, at this point, maybe I just won't do that. All right. Yep, that resolves. Those two cards we don't want on the bottom of our deck are probably better than fetching up a land we don't need. Although I say that, I could go get another Urza's Tower. And maybe that's worth it. Yeah, the Blast Zone just doesn't get there right now. Honestly, I don't know if anything's going to get there, but it's the Emrakul in hand that I'm most concerned about. Okay, well, I mean, I guess we at least have a plan here. We play Karn. That stops some shenanigans. We minus and figure out what the heck we want. 9. Can I Mindslaver? Oh, if I can Mindslaver. I can actually use this to turn off lands? That doesn't seem great. Ensnaring Bridge. That's it. Huh? We just have Mindslaver lock, though, right? Yeah, I'm gonna give this a shot. I'm no Blue Tron expert, but I am gonna give this a shot. Set a stop in my upkeep. Mindslaver, our opponent. I guess we get to attack for 2. We have a Repeal X equals 1 up. And we'll pass the turn. I've never taken a mind... done this, but I think this works. This is something, is it not? So I kind of want to get the Karn liberated and minus it on the Wurmcoil. Seems like a play. Oh gosh, we're in their upkeep. I'm sorry. I only set a stop in my upkeep. Whatever. Okay. Oh, we drew a power plant. All right. Oh, I tapped them out. Whoops. I tapped the mana in their upkeep. That's fine. I don't think this matters, right? Because we have I think we just have a lock. Oh, that's how you Mindslaver someone's turn poorly. Okay, so we'll go ahead and hit our Mindslaver here with these two. We will draw it for the turn, cast it. Take your next turn again. Minus this thing. I guess I can afford to cast anything I want here. So let's go ahead and get the... I mean, my opponent should just scoop, right? But they're not, and I want to make sure I learned some stuff here. So we'll get the Liquimetal Coating. We'll play it. And pass the turn to what I believe is another turn we will control. Yep. And this time I will not mess it up. Yeah, this game's over. So our opponent's probably going to make us play it out, it seems, but this game is over. So we'll go Karn Liberated. Exile the Wurmcoil. This allows us to start attacking. To actually come to it, bring this game to a conclusion at some point. Unless you do that and F6 through it. Did I just beat myself? I might not have, because I can repeal. That's pretty funny though. I think I misclicked through it pretty hard, but I think it'll be okay. Put the Mindslaver back. That's why you don't scoop to it, I guess. Put the Mindslaver back on top. Repeal on my Ballista. Cast the Mindslaver. This is ridiculous. You got to be careful about clicking too fast on Magic Online. It'll get you. It will get you. Alright, play our Ballista. This game's over. I'm sorry, everybody watching at home, that I messed it up there. I do apologize. We'll be fine. Let's add some mana here before we do this. All right, we'll use Karn to get rid of that thing. I'll future-proof my own mistakes here. I will use this mana to cast this other Karn. Oops, I got to click away from their pool here. Okay. I will use this one to minus their tower. I will move to my turn and not mess it up this time. Have to do it in your upkeep. It turns out that's very important. You know what's actually very interesting is that the deck list I got this of did not have the Mindslaver in the sideboard, and yet it's that Mindslaver in the sideboard that is actually making all the difference here. I mean, this is our win. A little out of time. All right. I suppose I can start using their Ugin to hit themselves. If I wanted... I guess I can't even do that unless they had Tron, which they don't. So, just exile this tower. You see, now I don't actually have to worry because they can't really get there. I could actually give them a turn so I can spend my mana to grow my Ballista, because I do have to spend my turn doing this, right? So, that's fine. I think in this case I will just take a draw. And start dumping mana into this thing. Alright, get in there with this. My opponent, in theory, cannot do anything now, so that's fine. I guess they're going to beat us on clock, although when you Mindslaver an opponent's turn, it's worth it, right? We're going to win by Mindslaver regardless of how of whether we get timed out or not, we did it, right? We Mindslaver locked our opponent in game 1. That feels pretty good. All right, so we did that on our turn. Yep, so we're going to, or on their incept, so we're going to draw it. Going to make 10 mana here, play it. Activate it. Pump this thing up again. Get in for 5. Yeah, I guess it's just all about clock management right now. That's what our opponent is doing. So we'll just go ahead and I can't even activate that thing, so it doesn't matter. We'll just try to click through this real quick and get to the end. It won't take long, at least. It took us a little bit of time to figure it out, but it won't take long to actually end things. Okay, activate. Activate. Swing for 6. Pass the turn. I'm so happy we won game 1 like this. That's really neat. Honestly, truly, regardless of what happens after this, this was cool. Alright, give me priority over here. I gotta say, the Mindslaver lock-in paper, where you're just gonna go, I'm gonna Mindslaver you until you lose, a little more enjoyable than it is to resolve all Magic Online when you're gonna clock out with it. But I have to say, my own ineptitudes probably contributed a little more to that than the Mindslaver lock itself. But it is a fun lock. All right, I can't quite finish it off here, so we'll have to go one more turn. I could have made it an 8, put him to 9, but not finish him, so... Okay. Just want to make sure none of this does anything on my turn. It doesn't. All right, friend, let's play game 2. All right, put some counters on this thing. All right. All right, so there we go. Time for game 2. Hopefully we win that one much quicker than we won this one. But can we do that? That was certainly a wild game. I honestly don't know that we want to make any changes, right? This doesn't seem... The Dismembers aren't really good. You know, the Mindslaver, I'd probably rather have it to go get with a Karn than anything else. I wish I had more counterspells in there, but... Excuse me, I think we just run it back. And no matter what happens, if we Mindslaver locked an opponent with Blue Tron, okay? It's just worth it. I think I'm going to keep this. Because, hey, we have an opening hand action. Got to figure out what to pitch to it, though. Probably the Ballista. Ballista's very good, obviously, but it is probably the worst here. Getting this turn 1 Chalice of the Void down, given that we don't have an Expedition map, is, I think, pretty decent in itself, also. So, our opponent's deck relies on certainly a non-zero number of 1-drops, whereas we just have the Expedition maps, which are not vital to our deck at all. So, and I guess, you know, X equals 0 on a repeal, but this will turn off a fair amount of the cards in their hand. Not this turn 3 Tron that they're going to have, but, you know, nothing stops that. At the very least, we get to play a turn. I mean, this is turn 2, right? We're gonna have turn 2 Thirst for Knowledge, turn 3 Karn. That's pretty good. I just don't know if it's gonna be good enough. However, if we had drawn into a Remand or a Condescend right here, we would have been in pretty good shape. But look at that, actually. All they have is a Walking Ballista, not a Karn, not a Wurmcoil, just a Walking Ballista. And it's a big Walking Ballista. But, I mean, hey, we get to play our game. I gotta say, the Ugin is not very good. And we're a long way from doing anything with it. And this is simply medium, given that they could just pump mana into this thing and use it to shoot down Karn, I believe. I guess I could turn this into a 0/0. Wait a minute. One target non-creature artifact. Okay, so I can actually hit their stuff too. Not that that matters much. Alright, I think the Ugin's got to go. It just does so little in this matchup. There's nothing we can wipe with it, right? And if all you're doing is plussing with it, it's still an Ugin, but it's not quite as good. That, however, is very good. That's a game plan, is what that is. Now, we're going to have to hope, essentially, here, right? Hope that our opponent has a bunch of 1-drops, but I should be able to repeal the Ballista, then untap and play Karn. And that's the world we want to be in if we don't get completely blown out by an Ugin or something here. Now, okay, so they were actually baiting the counterspell before, so they're now going to follow up with the Karn. Yeah, I mean, this seems pretty bad for us. Sure. Sylvan Scrying's going to be a no-go, friend. Alright, so I want to make sure I have X equal 2 here. What? Oh, it's not converted mana cost X or less. Interesting. Don't see that one making a big difference either way. We got Karned out of this one, but it's good to know that unlike some other cards, Repeal, you cannot. It's not X or less. I can't make X equal 2 to hit this. X will always equal 0, which means the converted mana cost of this spell will be 1 because X is 0 on the stack. So that's good to know. And with that said, a little late on that Condescend. We had that Condescend last turn. We might just win the game, but on to game 3. Tower, Power Plant, Chalice, Thirst for Knowledge. I got to keep it. The clock is certainly, a thing to think about. But I think we have to give this a shot. We have to hope that Chalicing on turn 2 is good and Thirsting on turn 3 is good. Because that's where we're at. Now we could just complete our own Tron. Well, I'll tell you what. If you're going to do it, so am I. Although the difference between a turn 1 expedition map and a turn 2 expedition map is probably the difference between winning and losing, frankly. Yeah, and I think that's where we're going to be. We have to hope our opponent respects the counterspell again. And then we can pop the map, but I think they're going to get us here. I have to say, I feel like normal Tron is probably advantaged against blue Tron. But that turn 1 was cool, and our opponent does not respect it. But I guess we'll use this opportunity to go get a mine. And see if we can dig out of it. You can repeal that thing. Let's see what they go get. They got a Liquimetal Coating. Okay. I mean, I'm going to play a Wurmcoil. This game isn't over. I see your Tron. Yep, well, now I can't activate that. Wow, okay. Wow, this game is taking some turns, but I'm going to now play my Karn Oh, I can't. Oh, I can. Okay, this got weird. So we cannot activate the tower. That's what the Liquimetal Coating does since it's an artifact. However, these still make 4 mana, right? So I still have access to 5 mana on this turn. And I can play our own Karn. Minus it. And figure out what the heck we want. Probably like a second Wurmcoil. Right? The path to winning this game and winning this game in 2.5 minutes on our clock involves just slamming Wurmcoil Engines. And hoping our opponent doesn't have anything, which, granted, is probably pretty unlikely. In fact, if they, have something truly game-breaking to go get with this, we're wide open to it, right? So I couldn't play my own Liquimetal Coating there. I didn't have the mana. I couldn't, we just could do nothing with that tower. So I also could not Chalice of the Void. But hey, we turn off their Liquimetal Coating with our Karn. They have to find ways to just get around Wurmcoil beats. And we have the, at least, possibility of drawing into counter magic. So this is a bizarre game right now, and they're forced to go get their own Wurmcoil, and that's why we have the second one. We'll see what happens. What a crazy match this has been. I thought we were dead for sure, frankly. But we're not. We're just not. I can Wurmcoil and Thirst and all kinds of stuff, actually. So look, I can actually go Chalice on 1, which is important, maybe, right? It's important in the sense that I don't even know if there's anything to go get with this, though. It's a thing. Looking at my sideboard, trying to do it quickly. I don't even think there's anything to go get. I'm just going to pass. And we only had 5 mana there, 2, 4, 5, so we could not play another Wurmcoil. But let's see what our opponent does. I mean, Chalice on 1 matters because of this, right? It matters because of the Ancient Stirrings and the fact that their deck is filled with a bunch of Chromatic Stars and Chromatic Spheres and Expedition Maps and Ancient Stirrings that don't do anything into Chalice of the Void on 1. If we can make this game about top-decking Imracools only, we can win an Imracool fight because we have the second one. We're also going to get to Thirst for Knowledge here on their instep. So this is really the turn, I think. This is the turn where if we can avoid anything just hugely problematic from our opponent, we've got a shot. And look at that. We get to play a Thirst for Knowledge. Artifact, Expedition Map, get out of there. And now we have Cyclonic Rift. That's a card in itself. We can follow up with our own Blast Zone if we want, but I actually want some mana here. Let's send... I'm going to send it Karn, because I'd like to get it out of play if I can. All right, lots of Wurmcoils. Yep. We're all doing the Wurmcoil thing. I guess Blast Zone gets to take out our Chalice, which is annoying. All right, I'm going to go and get the... Gosh, I guess the Mindslaver. This is so hard, and we're going to end up timing out. This is kind of a rough way to go, but it is what it is. And depending on what happens here, I can actually overload a Cyclonic Rift on their instep. Are they going to put this up to 4? Okay. I mean, overloading Cyclonic Rift is the play here on their instep, and then we get to Mindslaver them, attack for a bunch. What are they doing? All right, they're turning their star into a 1/1 because when it dies, they get a card. Okay, sure, whatever. You're going to destroy my Karn. Sure, my Karn's gone. So is yours. Follow up with another Karn. Yeah, makes sense. I think we can win this game. It looks like they're actually going to blow up our mine here. So maybe I should have done that in response to the coating ability. I'm not a Liquimetal Coating expert, that's for sure. It might come back to get us. They're doing that just to burn my clock. Yeah, I understand. Get in for 12. Play Karn. Go get our Liquimetal Coating. Set a stop in their upkeep. And Liquimetal Coating their tower. Unfortunately, we lose to the clock. However, I think we win this game. So, take that for what you will. I spent too much time talking at the beginning, too much time setting up the camera, not enough time playing. That's too bad, because we actually had this game won. In fact, if I get a turn and can attack in 3 seconds, we're still going to win this game. I can turn this into a 2-2 and try to attack for 14. Okay. Did we make it? Attack all? No! That's okay, I don't mind. However, you can see we actually had 14 damage and we're going to swing for lethal if we had another 5 seconds. Well, who cares? You lose to the clock sometimes. We won the match, though, and that's what matters. In our hearts and minds and in paper, we won the match, and that is an incredible demonstration of Mono Blue Tron, everybody, right there. Thanks for watching. Let's jump right into another. All right, we're on the play this time around, and I have to say, this looks like a keep to me. 2 Urza lands, counter magic, and bounce spell, right? So our opponent's got Lurrus as their companion here. Don't know what they're up to, but this looks like a pretty good hand for us, I think. Let's see how bad it is on turn 1. We're going to get Inquisition. Okay, well, I mean, I guess the good news is we're keeping a counter spell here, but Remand or Condescend, one of them's hitting the dust, and it's probably the Condescend. Wow, they took the Remand. Interesting. So the thing is, you can play around Condescend, right? That's sort of the trade-off there, right? You just play a 1-drop. Well, I can't really Condescend that if you have the 1 mana to pay for. You can play around Condescend the whole game. But on the other hand, if we assemble Tron, that's not a thing you can do, for one. Well, all right, here we go. They're just this makes sense. I was going to say, I get a Scry regardless. If, you know, I wanted to, right? But this is fine. They can use their Inquisition on it. And look, now, depending on what happens, we can repeal most plays. Oh, wow, what a draw. I think that's a huge draw for us, because now we will still get to Condescend whatever our opponent does. Set up looking for that other Tron piece. But we also get to play our Karn the Great Creator and go get something out of our sideboard. Probably Liquimetal Coating. Turn it into the little land destruction engine. Which will actually be, I mean, that'll be online, right? If we are able to untap with our Karn after our opponent does whatever they're going to do here, we can set up the little land destruction engine. And it's a Dreadhorde Arcanist. Well, this is actually way worse for my opponent. Because I'm just going to repeal that thing. It's way more mana efficient. Oh. Well, that's pretty annoying. But we'll repeal, and then we'll each draw 3 and discard 3. Discarding 2 Karns wasn't great for us. We found the expedition map to go get the 3rd Urza piece, although turns out we just have the 3rd Urza piece. I could play Wurmcoil right here, and that's what I'm going to do. Wurmcoil plus map, as a matter of fact. Unfortunately, I can't keep up the Condescend here, but I mean, this isn't bad. Our opponent's what? Going to play some dorky play like a Dreadhorde Arcanist? Pretty good in a different circumstance, but not necessarily great when you're staring down a Wurmcoil, right? And this is their only turn to really resolve spells because we have Condescend open next turn. Not to mention, we have Tron now, and we can use Expedition Map to go get an Academy Ruins. Now, on the downside here, if my opponent just attacks first with the Dreadhorde Arcanist and gets the Inquisition of Kozilek back, they're going to take the Condescend out of our hand. Also, notice, by the way, this card is in their deck. Waste Not. This is an interesting play. Because now what they're going to do... Wow, they're going to wrench our mind. Well, I'd like to counter that. Maybe I should have countered the Waste Not instead. I don't know. I was scared of something else following, but maybe that would have just been correct. All right, bottom that, bottom that. I mean, this still isn't a great position for them, right? They get a swing and they get to cast a Burning Inquiry. Each player draws 3, then discards 3. So, you know, their hope is to get creatures or whatever out of us. But they just didn't work. So, there you go. It looks like, I don't even know what happened there. It looks like we hit... Not entirely sure what I missed right there, but either way, it didn't work out for them. We don't exactly have a lot of creatures to give them the 2/2s that they need to complete the blocking, although they might have gotten one. But we have so much gas there. So, all right, Black-Red Arcanist. This is where we want those Dismembers for sure. It's also probably... I mean, I like fetching the other Ballista. The Wurmcoil seemed like a great finisher. The Ugin seemed very important here. I'm going to go ahead and cut a little bit like this. Cut down the edges a little bit. I mean, this is going to be a tough one, but a lot of our cards here are very good, right? Like, ramping to Ugin to clear their board is very good. Maybe I'm supposed to put some out of the Relic's main deck, I don't know, to have the graveyard hate. Their deck is very in on its graveyard. And this is a pretty easy mulligan. And this looks like a keep to me. I'll put the Repeal on the bottom. Keep the mana. Keep the Dismember. Maybe I could put, like, the Tolaria West on the bottom. The thing is, I'm on the draw, so, like, the Repeal is not exactly fast enough against, you know, a non-curve play. So, I'm going to put the Repeal on the bottom here. It's kind of a filler card, not that it's a bad card by any means, but it is one of the more filler cards. It's a lot better on the play than the draw. So, here comes the Inquisition, as expected. Our opponent does have a choice, though. They either have to hit the Condescend or the Dismember. I assume they hit the Dismember. Yeah. Because, you know, it's possible to make the Condescend just kind of not do anything. Which is the concern. But, hey, that's step 2 of Tron for us with that power plant. And as long as we have Ugin in hand, we are live to hitting Tron and wiping their board. Because if it's an Arcanist or something like that here, things could start to get, you know, pretty bad for us, right? They're going to hit the Inquisition and knock the Condescend out of our hand if we don't find an answer. Although, that's an answer. Chalice of the Void, X equals 1, is incredible against these Arcanist decks, these young Pyromancer decks, these Burning Inquiry decks, Inquisition of Kozilek decks. That is a difficult one. Now, they can obviously deal with it pretty easily in black and red, but, you know, if they don't have an answer to it, then it stops this Inquisition play, which it did. And now, depending on what they do, we might have Condescend open. Let's see what the three-drop play is for them. Wow, putting Lurrus into their hand? That is not what they were looking for, I'll tell you that much. Okay, so now we even have we've got the Condescend, yes, but we have eventually the ability to transmute with the second blue source this Tolaria West into an Urza's Mine to unlock the power of the Urza Tron. but we're going to get a scry as well. So I have to say this is a pretty decent position for us to be in. Even though our opponent went Inquisition, Dreadhorde, Arcanist, they actually just gave us no targets, huh? Okay. Another power plant. So I could transmute, but I don't want to do that quite yet. I don't even know if I'm going to end up wanting to do that at all, frankly. But we'll pass the turn back. I mean, we're not under any pressure from a Dreadhorde Arcanist. And I believe that every turn we simply make land drops when we have Ugin in hand is a good turn for us, and our opponent seems to agree. I'm going to guess they're looking at a hand of about 5 1-drops over there, and they now do nothing thanks to Chalice of the Void. But the problem for them is, even if they try to cast that Luris, we're going to Condescend that thing. We're then going to look at these 2 cards on the top of our deck, and I would have probably kept the map, shipped the Talisman. Maybe. I might have shipped them both. And we're going to flood out a little bit, but the reality is, at the end of the day, if our opponent didn't board in cards or doesn't have cards that beat Chalice of the Void, we are realistically just turning off their entire hand and ramping up to that Ugin that they know we're waiting on, and they are not going to have a way to beat an Ugin. So there you go, everybody. That is Mono Blue Tron just shutting down Black-Red Arcanist, Pyromancer, whatever you want to call it. One of the better and more disruptive decks in the format. Sometimes just can't beat what you're putting up with this deck. That was a great match. After that slog of the first one, it's nice to see you can also win some games on the timer in this one, so you have time to go get your lunch after your round. Back on the draw this time, and I'm going to keep this hand. I mean, I'm a sucker for any hand with Remand, especially when we're on the draw, but we'll see if it means much. Our opponent's going to shock in a Steam Vincent pass, huh? Okay, well. I'm going to show you that we're playing Tron and let you make your decisions based off of that, because certainly if I'm sitting across the table and my opponent goes turn 1 Urza's Tower pass, I'm going to go, another Tron player. And I'm going to, looks like we're playing against the Living End. And I'm going to, make my game plan around that. But in this case, we really get to throw off some, what their plans might be. And obviously against the Living End player, it doesn't matter much, but hiding the information that you're blue for a while can be pretty relevant. Wow, this is quite a few lands. The thing is, the Remand in our hand gives us some protection against Living End. These new flavor of Living End decks, I have to say, are very impressive. You're used to the old Jund Living End that, honestly, I have it sleeved up across the room in foil. I've played that deck forever. But you're used to that version. You're not used to Force of Negation Living End, and that I played it here on this channel, and I know fellow Cool Stuff writer Jim Davis has talked about it in the past. These blue Living End decks come with a whole different angle, and they are not scared to get in counter magic fights with you at all, which I think is just very interesting. So here we're in a position where we have to decide how we want to play, just how long we want to hold up this Remand, and is the answer forever? Because Karn the Great Creator going to get Relic of Progenitus. Kind of wish I had Tormod's Crypt in my sideboard, honestly. But we can go get a Relic of Progenitus, and that'll be very powerful against them. But only if we have the chance to pop it, right? And that takes to a 5th turn. But we'll let the Ardent Plea resolve. We'll Remand the Living End, and we'll go from there. All it takes is another Cascade card. Ooh, we have Tron. That changes things. Now, my opponent could still have Force of Negation, and keep in mind, the clause on Force of Negation, they would not have been able to use it on their turn to stop us from stopping that. But they could use it for this Karn the Great Creator, which is going to go get a Relic Progenitus. However, what they don't know is that we have this Chalice of the Void on 0 to follow it up with. It'd really be something if we can take a Living End deck out in the first game. So we'll see. And there you go. They had the Force of Negation all along. But what they don't have covered... Ooh. I almost played this thing for 1. Make sure I get this right. We want X to equal 0 in this matchup. Now, do you have a second Force of Negation, friend? If you do, you're going to get me. I have 5 lands in my hand. But Chalice of the Void on 0 does a number against Living End. Or suspend. There you go. We did it. They don't have an answer in the main deck to that. We took multiple game 1 answers, but we did it. Beat Living End through Force of Negation because Chalice of the Void is a very powerful card. So what do we want to do now? I want to put one of these relics in my main deck just, in the hopes that I draw it. The repeals are very bad. Is the Trinisphere very good? Maybe. I don't know. It's so hard, and I'm by no means a pro with these Karn the Great Creator decks. I dislike the static abilities on Planeswalkers that they introduced in War of the Spark. I really disliked the Karn and Tron Go Get Micah Synth Lattice combo. I just absolutely despised what it did to the format. However, with Lattice Band, and now you sort of see it in this toolboxy way, I might be able to get behind Karn the Great Creator a little bit. I can definitely get behind Chalice of the Void in our opening hand on the draw with the Gemstone Caverns. I like that. What do I pitch to it? That's the actual question here. I mean, I guess it's the Cyclonic Rift. It's probably not, though. It's probably like the Tolaria West. I'll put back the Rift. I just want to make my land drops. And obviously, look, this game's going to come down to some very simple calculations. Does our opponent have a Force of Negation on turn 1 for Chalice of the Void? Or, a way to kill it after that. Well, I said I just want lands, and hey, I guess I got my wish. Now, look, we can play around Spell Pierce if we want. They don't have Spell Pierce, so it wouldn't work with Living End. We'll play Chalice of the Void for 0 and see what happens. At the very least, we tax the Force of Negation and another card and slow them down a little bit. And there you go. They have it. Glass-Dust Hulk into the sideboard. I could very well end up transmuting this thing. So I guess we'll pass the turn and hope that the Thirst for Knowledge on turn 2 into Karn on turn 3 can get us there before Living End gets us, right? But they had the Force of Negation, and that is the difference between Living End in 2021 and Living End in any of the decade previous. It's pretty neat, actually, if you think about it, right? I personally find it pretty cool that Living End has persisted as a deck and did so in a way that isn't just sort of a worse version, sort of like ad nauseum decks. Yeah, you could technically play him after the Spirit Guide ban. I'm sure there's a way to do it, but why? Why would you? But Living End still does what Living End has always done, which is absolutely destroy small creature decks by wrathing their board with that Living End on turn 3 or turn 4. And you never really needed Simian Spirit Guide in the deck anyway. It helped, but you didn't need it. And now, because there's enough blue cyclers and you dip into white for Ardent Plea and Cascade and replacing your Demonic Dread, yeah, maybe your mana's a little more sketch, but access to Force of Negation is just monumental. You saw it already saving them, right, against that Chalice for 0 we tried to play. But it also gives Living End itself the ability, the deck the ability to interact with other combo decks. So it's got a lot of stuff going for it, honestly. So I'm going to discard one of these Ballistas here. Okay, I guess we run the same gambit. Play Karn, see what happens, try to slam Chalice for 0 afterwards. And it just worked. Okay, well. Sure. Guess I'll go get a Relic of Progenitus. See if our opponent has anything to say about this. Like I said, I got to say, if I was playing this deck, I would, after a little bit of tinkering here, I would very much put a Tormod's Crypt into the sideboard. Now, if our opponent doesn't have another Force of Negation here, then this Chalice is kind of whatever. I mean, look, here's the reality. They could just cast a Violent Outburst right here, do the thing, and get themselves a Striped Riverwinder in play and try to win off of that. And that seems to be what's actually going to happen. But, hey, maybe we'll figure out a way to beat a single Striped Riverwinder. Plus everything they hardcast after, I guess. Okay. That's the true, secret mode of Living End is when you just start hard casting your creatures. But we'll have to figure out a way to beat that Riverwinder. It's going to, I would assume, take out our Karn the Great Creator here. But that gives us some time. We get to play the Ballista, X equals 2. Play the Relic. I mean, look, we've still got some work to do here. And they might get us. That's the other thing about Living End is, in a weird way, our opponent just paid 3 mana to cheat a 6/5 or 5/5 into play. And hey, maybe that's good enough. Right? There are some matchups where that just absolutely is good enough. So, all right, Karn's going to fall. It did its job to an extent. And now we'll see what happens. Condescend is a good draw, I think. Is the play Relic pass with Condescend up? I mean, the play is definitely Relic, so we'll start with that. I'm just trying to figure out the transmutations here and what we're going to do to beat this. Make them exile a card from the graveyard while I think. I'm just trying to think what we'd end up transmuting the Tolaria West for that's going to be relevant in a timely manner. I guess I'm the counter here is that I'm not doing anything else with it. I may as well just play this island and be ready to transmute it next turn. I think I just want to pass with Condescend up because this is where, Repeal doesn't get us out of it yet. But I guess if we got to 8 mana, Repeal would get us out of it. But sooner or later, they're just going to start hard casting stuff, and I need to be able, countering it is important, obviously, to try to get back ahead on board. But also the scry is a big deal. So I guess we'll see what happens. What's the plan here? The plan is to not cast the Living End, just get the Exalted from the Ardent Plea. Uh-huh. Okay, I guess I Condescend the Ardent Plea X equals 2. The thing is that doesn't change the clock. Attacking for 6 instead of 5 doesn't change the clock, but I guess I'll counter it just to get my scry in. I need that scry, so let's find a way to answer the Stripe Riverwinder and we'll be okay. Oh, they're gonna... Okay. Cycle another Stripe Riverwinder. Sure. Alright. I think this does it, because 1, I want that power plant, but 2, I want this Karn. I'm just going to go get an Ensnaring Bridge, and I'm just going to play the Ensnaring Bridge. And that will eventually solve our problem. And see, now, all right. I was going to say, now this Tolaria West play maybe matters, because it's the difference between putting up a Ballista or not to protect this thing. But that's okay. We'll play this. Minus it. Get the Ensnaring Bridge. Play the Tolaria West tapped. That's fine. We have Relic of Progenitus open. Just pass the turn. Because it doesn't matter if our opponent chooses to kill the Karn. All that really matters is that we resolve the Ensnaring Bridge. Prevent them from attacking us with any of these hard cast creatures or anything like that. And then we will eventually win, right? Our Planeswalkers will eventually get there. So... look, the Toolbox Karn deck thing can work, I guess, right? Now, of course, our opponent could have another Force of Negation, which changes everything right back up, but we'll see. Ensnaring Bridge. Okay, good news, good news, good news. Just debating on the Ballista here. I don't think it matters much. Alright, so our opponent can no longer Living End. All they can do is hardcast creatures. So they need to hardcast creatures that can kill us, but then they also need to find a way through the Ensnaring Bridge, which, in 4 colors, obviously there's a billion cards that'll do that for them. So, I feel good about where we're at here. I think we've got it mostly locked up, but it doesn't take too much for our opponent to get back in it, right? On my turn, though, regardless of what we draw, we now have an unknown draw coming. And we took that power plant because we just want mana, right? We now have 7 lands in play, 8 unlocks Ugin, were we to draw Ugin. But also, getting piece 1 of Tron is you got to start somewhere, right? And I'll tell you what, Academy of Ruins is also pretty good. Alright, so I'm going to go 1, 2, 3, 4. Play Walking Ballista, X equals 2. I have the ability to crack the Relic and activate Academy of Ruins to get the other Ballista back. I mean, this is a very slow win, but, I mean, hey, maybe not that slow. We get to ping our opponent for 2 every turn if we were to just do nothing but repeat what we just did, right? You get pop the Ballista at him for 2, and then put it back on top of your library and do the same thing again if we think they're going to whiff on 7 draws in a row. Curator of Mysteries. Okay. Good card because it allows them to scry. I mean, I won't lie. I'm kind of interested in just popping my Relic of Progenitus. Just for the card draw. Just to try to find a way to end the game quicker. I mean, Academy of Ruins and the other Ballista here I don't think's actually very good. I mean, the play might just be to put a counter on my Karn, on my Ballista, though. Yeah, there you go. Remember I talked about Ugin? That's enough to cast Ugin. I think this should do the trick. Puts them down to 10. We just completely hide behind this Ensnaring Bridge. If they hit the Ensnaring Bridge, they then have to get through the Ballista. They can't cast a Living End. It's basically Vandal Blast or bust for my opponent, right? Cyclonic Rift, etc. But Vandal Blast is probably their best out. Destroy all of our problematic permanents. Attack Ugin for 9. Get it off the board. I don't know if they're going to be able to put all that together, though. And if we untap, it's probably most certainly over for them. My opponent says, GG, so I think that we've done it. And there's a Remand just for good measure. Alright, so what might we change about this deck? Honestly, I'd say it felt pretty good. Not all the lists I saw had the Mindslaver and the Sideboard. I would not leave home without it, especially after that match we saw. I think I would probably, in the Sideboard here, change out something. Maybe cut one of the explosives, put in a Tormod's Crypt. You can see just the ability to play and activate it for 0 mana would have come up pretty handy for us there. And certainly does some good work overall. So doesn't seem like a big change as far as the main deck goes. Honestly, I mean, look, the deck is what it is. Your Ugin needs to be good or it's going to be a difficult matchup. We saw that in that first match, even though we were able to pull it out. I wouldn't hate Ceremonious Rejections in the sideboard. I'd love that counterspell. But honestly, this is it, everybody. Blue Tron at least has a home, I guess, in New Modern. We were able to match up against a variety of decks and feel pretty good about it. So, you know, just work on your clock management, I guess, on Magic Online and have fun Blue Troning people, everybody. Thank you so much for watching Mining Modern. I'm Corbin Hosler. I do content here on Cool Stuff every Thursday. You can find it here on YouTube. So thank you again. I'll see you next week.